All right, hello everybody. This is Jeremy with the JMA, the Jmurrayathletics podcast here today. I'm going to be opening you guys up today. We've got a couple event announcements, everything to get into before we get started. So we have Fletch. Disclaimer: these are New York names, and I am not from there. So if I butcher these, you guys can hop in the comments and tell me how bad I am at it. But I got Flex FC and Pat Hugay, New York. Yeah, I butchered that one. It'd be a 10-18. I got Hammer Challenge Series in Flinksville, Pennsylvania. I think it's 1025 or it's PA. I got Wrestling Wars 11-1 in Chicago. I got Elite Fighting Promotion in Saratoga, New York. That'll be November 15th. We've got Rival FC 11/22 in Paducah, Kentucky. I've got Agogi Fight League December 6th, and then Donnybrook Fight Promotions and Bear, Vermont, also on December 6th. Yeah, guys, so we got a bunch of big announcements coming out, a bunch of huge events coming in, and we're going to start trying to cover as many of those as we can, as many areas as possible. If you want to keep supporting us as well, we do have the JMA store merchandise. We've got all kinds of different collections that we've been working on, whether it's a JMA hoodies or we got some fire stuff for more of the hippie community out there, the green smoke. We got a lot of things going on. So without further ado, I wanted to introduce our actual host, CEO John Murray.
Oh, hello. That was so amazing. I was so enthralled by your intro there. That was well done, Jeremy. Thank you.
I know about it. That was go on. Sorry.
We do have one slight change to Elite Fighting. It is going to be at, I believe, Empire Live in Albany, New York this time, and not Saratoga. I forgot to put that in beforehand. That's entirely on me. We do have a special guest. We're doing a little something different. We're going back to stick fighting. Jeremy, why don't you tell us a little more?
All right, yes, guys. So today our guest is Mr. Rodney Morgan. Rodney is associated with the Dog Brothers. He's a JKD instructor. He teaches out of Apex Combat Institute here in Paducah, Kentucky. Iron Palm certified. I mean, the man has done it all. Thank you so much for coming on here today, Rodney, and talking with us, sharing some of your knowledge. How you doing today?
Very good. Thank you very much for having me on the podcast, man. It's a real honor.
Sure, thank you. Well, yeah, man, just tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Like, what you want everybody to know. Just start us off.
Well, I got my start like most people my age. I'm 54 years old. So I started back in the, 80s, early 80s, and with a 3-tour duty Vietnam vet in Taekwondo, international Taekwondo, that he learned from the South Koreans over in Vietnam. And this is after growing up on Bruce Lee movies and all of the Shaw Brothers Kung Fu films, which I'm a big fan. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you can see or not, but I've got one right there, one of my favorite ones, the kid with the golden arms, growing up watching that stuff. Then as I got into my early 20s and I started working in Paducah, the town you and I live in, there was a South Korean here that he was an Olympic silver medalist in judo for South Korea, but he was also a Taekwondo instructor. So I wanted the same experience my teacher had, to learn directly from a Korean. So I went up there and spent a few years with him. Well, while I was up there, I met a guy named Brian Green, and he knew my interest in other things outside of Taekwondo, because I just didn't feel like I was getting exactly what I really wanted. Even though at the time in 93, and this is before the first UFC, the guys of us that were training judo and Taekwondo, when we sparred, Master Wong, we got to throw, and I mean, we did everything. And whereas the other guys were just doing like Olympic style Taekwondo, if you were in his judo class, if you were sparring, you were allowed to kick, punch, throw, whatever. So, I got a pretty good start. But anyway, Brian introduced me to a guy named Jason Hawkins. Jason's from here in Paducah, and he runs Three Rivers Martial Arts. This was back in 1993. And he told me, he said, you need to go see this guy. He's got what you're looking for. So I remember the first time I met him, you know, I walk in and he's in there warming up, jumping rope. You're from Paducah, so you'll know it was in a building right next to Kingsway Skateland. Used to be an old furniture building. We had the whole thing. It was huge. So I go in and introduced myself and told him who had sent me, kind of an introduction and what I was interested in. And at the time, he was a student under Dan Inosanto out of California. So he was doing the seminar circuit with Dan, then going to California once a year and training. And he was like, be back at 5 o'clock. And I was like, okay. So I go back at 5 o'clock. And as soon as I come in, he's like, all right, we're going to start off with what they refer to as Kali, Eskrima. And the first thing he does is hand me a stick. And I'm like, first day, first minute of class, you're handing me a weapon. And the funny thing is, I still have that actual stick to this very day. It's the original stick he handed me when I walked into class that day. And from that minute on, I was hooked. I mean, that was the thing. Because most arts, at least when I was coming up, you train for however many years until you get your black or second or third. Then they're going to teach you some weapons. But you never saw that teacher handle those weapons. You know, and it was just like the old Japanese weapons. So from day one, you get a stick, you get a knife, you're doing empty hands, all these things. So I was just hooked, man. And that was my first taste of the Filipino martial arts. But we also trained in Muay Thai. Sirasut Chai, Arjan Chai. He was part of Dan Inosanto's crew. So we were getting all of this stuff all at one time. So I spent a few years with him. Then I got to thinking we would discuss different arts. And I got to thinking, well, I need to find the mother art. I was at that time in my life when I was looking for the secret, right? So I needed to discover Kung Fu. Well, let me give you a caveat. There's no real Kung Fu in America. Well, it's so rare that you're probably not going to find it. So I went out and found a Kung Fu teacher, and he had a Chinese teacher, and I learned some, and that's where my iron palm, the iron shirt, and all that stuff comes from. But I was very displeased with what I was learning. And I remember talking to Jason, coming back and speaking to him when I got into the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, because I had started work at the jails. And so I started learning Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and I mentioned to him about that, and he just told me, he said, Rodney, he says, sometimes people sit on the back of whales fishing for minnows. So you need to look where you come from. And I'd always loved the Filipino martial arts the whole time, right? So that day I dropped anchor. And that's basically what I started practicing all of the time, full time. Then I started going out and searching for other Filipino martial arts teachers. That's how I discovered the Dog Brothers on YouTube. There's a video, and it's still on there today. And it's called Los Triques. Lostriques, the 3 Ks. And when you're in the Filipino martial arts, one of the things you're taught is you don't kick, you don't punch. Why? Well, try to kick me and I'll show you. I watched this video, and it's guys in fencing masks with sticks, full contact fighting, and they're kicking the crap out of each other. Muay Thai style. So I watched this video and I'm like, go back, rewind it, watch it again. I'm like, am I seeing what I'm really seeing? I bet I watched that thing. Ain't no telling how many times I watched that video. And that's what got me started in the Dog Brothers. Whatever these guys had, that's what I wanted. Then there's a guy at SIU that's part of the Midwest Tribe, and he runs SIU Filipino Martial Arts, named Rob Galegli. He invited Crafty to come in. Now, there's a few years in between. I'm concise and down. And so I went and met Crafty and some of the Dog Brothers. And, man, when I met those guys, it was a game changer, man. Changed my whole view, my whole outlook, the way I train, the way I do everything. That's how I got involved with them. Now, I'm not a Dog Brother. You have to earn the dog name. So I am a Dog Brothers representative and group leader in my area. To get a dog name, you have to fight at different gatherings. then a dog brother has to sponsor you as a candidate dog. Then you're going to have to go out to California and fight a few times at the original grounds. Then they'll tell you to pick your name, and then later they will knight you as a dog brother. That's how you become a dog. So there's a difference between dog brothers and dog brothers martial arts. And that's kind of where. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Are you a member of Dog Brothers Martial Arts? Where's
Yes, sir.
Okay, because is that kind of like trying to think of a good comparison for people. For jiu-jitsu, like you have Renzo Gracie affiliates, like you might have a gym underneath Renzo Gracie, but they might have a different name with that affiliation still. It's just kind of the lineage. Like my coach's gym is Atlas Jiu-Jitsu, but we derive our lineage from Team Revolution out of Vermont with Julio Foco Fernandez. Is that similar? Is that a similar concept, or am I thinking this wrong?
So what I had to do is of course I had studied, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but I had met Crafty, met some of the other dog brothers, and continued to train. And because of where Crafty lives, we would do Zoom and stuff like that. So I just asked, how do I become a group leader for DBMA in my area? And he just said, because of the other guys that I had met and trained with, and from what he had seen, he's like, you are welcome to become a group leader because we know that you're passing on what we're training. So I am recognized as a group leader of Dog Brothers Martial Arts in Western Kentucky. Yes.
So this is a crazy question. Why is it that they don't? Why is it that you could be an affiliate but not a dog? I guess
because the name is earned, not given, and not everyone that does Dog Brothers Martial Arts has to do full contact sparring. That is our real contact sparring. Just because that's what we teach doesn't mean you have to do it. Most of them do. I may never get a dog name because I'm just going to be 100% honest with you. I don't have the money to fly to California a bunch of times and fight. But there's other guys that are dog brothers that I can go to Memphis, Chicago, different areas like that, guys that I have met and I've become friends with, and they have their own gatherings. If you're a representative, you can have a gathering, but it's just a different path about earning a dog name. So, but you don't have to fight. You can practice and brush up against reality, but you don't have to get out there and full contact fight. Not everybody has to do that. But you can still train. It'd be like me getting into you're coming to your MMA school and telling you, hey man, I want to learn MMA, but I'm never going to get in the ring and fight as a professional. I'm just not going to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes absolute sense. Now, what is it that makes like the Dog Brothers training different from other systems?
So we have a lot of sayings. Crafty's a bit of a philosopher. And when I say Crafty, I'm referring to Mark Denny. He is the guiding force of the Dog Brothers. There was 3 guys that started it. Mark Denny, Eric Noss, and Arlen Sanford. Well, Mark Denny's kind of taking control of it over the past few years, and they've given him control of it, so to speak. And we have a saying that says, if you see it taught, you see it fought. So a lot of Filipino martial arts classes, if you go in and you say, hey, I want to train with you, they'll give you a stick and everything, and you'll start a foot away or 2 foot away, right?
Right.
Is that realistic? How did I get there? So we have a saying, and another saying is, for me to get over there to do these things to you, I have to cross what we refer to as the triangle from the 3rd dimension. It's where your 2 sticks meet, but your bodies are far apart. So if I'm trying to come over here and do something to you with my stick, but you got this stick going in every direction, how did I get there? Right? So the training is realistic. That's the difference between us. And now there's going to be a few things that I will say on this podcast that will be extremely controversial amongst the Filipino martial arts community. It's my opinion. I can say them. You know what I mean? So we train realistically. So our drills that we use, Jeremy, he's been part of it. The drills that we use are the exact same things you will do in a full contact fight. It's not that you're going to have to extract something from this drill and me be like, oh, you're not going to fight like this. We're going to do this drill anyway. No, if we do the drill, that's how you're going to fight. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Do you think in your selection of techniques, how is it that you find things that you like, new things that you apply? Like in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, obviously we're rolling. Some would consider it more of a sport, but like we discover a lot of our new techniques in our, sparring that we do. Is it the same way for you, or is it a different process to just involving different techniques?
Same process. So back in, and I don't remember the year. I forgot to go and look. My memory's not as good as it used to be. So for 3 days back in the 80s, those 3 men that I mentioned got together and sparred for 3 days straight, over 100 sparring matches. Because up until that point, the consensus had been it's too deadly to spar with. And Eric got the idea of, let's find out. So they got fencing masks. And if you've ever had a fencing mask on, it doesn't offer a whole lot of protection, especially the ones those guys were using back then. They referred to it as a screen door on your head, right? So they tried a lot of the things that they had done before and found out a lot of it did not translate exactly when somebody's swinging that stick, really trying to hit you. So what we do now is through these guys blazing the trail and finding out, for the most part, what works and what doesn't. And some things will work for a while. Then it's like, hey, you remember MMA when it first came out? The Gracies were killing everybody, taking everybody to the ground and wearing them out. Didn't take long. People figure out how to do it. When's the last time there was a Gracie in a UFC? So basic, and that's not a knock against the Gracies. I don't mean anything, but people figured out how to stop the ground attack. It goes in and out of vote. So what we refer to it as is C sparring or controlled sparring, or as one of my buddies calls it, no wind sparring. So you're swinging your stick, still trying to hit your opponent, but you're not swinging it so hard that if he gets hit, that it's going to cause any major damage. So we use what we call the laboratory. We are training in the laboratory of realism. And if we can make it work under pressure, maybe not 100% pressure, but if we can make it work, say 7 or 8 times out of 10 under 75% pressure, there's a pretty good chance that technique you can pull it off. So it's the same thing as flow rolling or the same thing as sparring. And there's a volume knob on everything, as you jiu-jitsu guys well know. We can flow roll and we can position roll, or we can turn it to 10 and it's an all-out whatever, right?
Absolutely.
So if we stay between 5 and 7, we start at 1 and we turn the dial up a little every time we get together until we're tiptoeing over into reality. We put our toe into reality and come back, put our toe into reality and come back. Nobody gets hurt, at least not too badly. And we get to try to see if the technique that we think works really will work.
Well said.
Definitely something else, like experiencing that level of pressure, especially even coming from somebody who's a little bit more used to being punched in the face than the normal person. It's totally different sparring somebody versus even having somebody swinging a stick at you and the pattern that they're going to be swinging at you with. Like, there's that extra sense of fear because you can get hit with a jab or a cross or a body kick multiple times and I shouldn't have done that. But you mess up one time with that stick and you put your hand in the wrong place or step the wrong way, and it's a totally different level and the smell of the wood. That's I think that was the first thing that stood out to me, man. Is the when I first came in and started training with you, which again too, like I have the benefit of Jason Hawkins was where I got my first official start when it came to the JKD stuff and the trap and everything. So we had a little bit of a mutual like I you could talk to me in terms that I understood and give me knowledge in a way that I'd already represented. But that intensity difference of swinging those things so hard that, like, I remember literally looking around the room, John, and looking and being like, is something burning? Because Austin had just been doing some construction in there, literally within the last couple days. And I was like, what? Because that smell, that friction, and realizing that intensity, it puts you in that different mindset. Can you talk a little bit about that, about creating that tribal mindset in training? Have you utilized the drums and stuff like that?
Oh, so, and that's funny because I don't, any way I say it, somebody's going to construe it as an insult, even though I don't mean it that way. If you're training Eskrima and you don't smell the burn of a stick, you've never trained Eskrima. There are people that I've trained with before that have had years of Eskrima training, and they're going, what's that smell? And I'm like, what do you mean, what's the smell at your stick? You're telling me you've never trained hard enough to smell your stick burning? Because that's an everyday class with us. You know that. Every time we get together, people are looking around, what's on fire? And if you're an Eskrima practitioner and you've never smelled that, I don't know what you're doing. But anyway, like I say, I'm not trying to make myself sound better than anybody else. As a friend of mine told me one time, I like to say I'm a competent fake at best. I just pass on what's been given to me, and I try to do the best I can with it. But the tribalism, that is one of the things that I really also drew me to. There's multifacets to Dog Brothers that drew me to it. I'm big into tribalism. My family is my tribe. Then my friends are my tribe. Outside of that, there's everybody else. So we're taught in the Dog Brothers, because the Dog Brothers is a tribe. It's a tribal thing. And they actually have tribal gatherings. So there's also being part of the tribe, which I'm not part of the tribe. That's another level in the Dog Brothers. But I had my own tribe in Paducah that you were part of, or still are part of. You know, and that's friendship and loyalty and honor and helping people. So I am very big into my culture, where I come from, where my family comes from, and tribalism. I believe in it. And sometimes it's hard to say that without people freaking out, because it's not what most people think it is. So we use that as a focus point for me when I'm training with you. In the Dog Brothers, another saying we have is, if you're my brother and you're part of the tribe, I have to push you just enough to your point to make you better. But if I push you so hard that I break you, now I've hurt you and you're no good to the tribe anymore until you heal and come back. And it can do something to your psyche. So if I was to go to your MMA school and say, hey man, I want to join, and you're just like, okay, welcome to have you. Here's your money. You're sparring with this guy, and this guy goes and beats me up. And I come in the next night, somebody else beats me up. All I know is I've been beat up. I didn't learn anything. You're not making me stronger, and I'm not helping your group, because if you consider me part of your tribe or your school, if I'm weak, you should be bringing me up. So that tribalism is something that I do. I encourage my students. I push them enough to make them grow, but we don't break each other. We help each other. And the drumming is actually something that that era come from Dan Inosanto. So I'm also an instructor under Paul Vunak's system of PFS Jeet Kune Do. Well, Mark Denny was a part of that too. Well, one of the things that Dan Inosanto and Vunak and all them used was drums, because rhythm, when you're training, it's something primal about it. Probably the first instrument, right? So everybody knows what's the backbeat of a music. It's always the drums. But there's a certain tempo and a certain beat, 3-1, that gets you. So when you're moving and you feel, I would always remember me saying, relax, breathe, listen to the music. Then it starts to flow. Now we're flowing. You're following that.
I feel like you would like capoeira.
Do what, sir?
I feel like you would love capoeira.
They use it. Absolutely. They use it. And listen, there's something to it. If you've never tried it, look up like tribal drumming, Germanic drumming, congas, and African drumming was one that I used a lot. The djembe is what they call it. So using that in your training, I'm telling you, it does something. It does help.
There's some science behind that. When I did my personal trainer certification, a part of it discusses the use of music in specifically group exercise classes to motivate and set the tone for the level of intensity that you want the class to be at. Because if you use the right music, you can get people in that energy and mood without, all the extra hype.
Absolutely. There really is something to it, and it has been used in this art for a long, long time, which leads me to something that I'd like to discuss for just a second, and that's the history going all the way back of the Filipino martial arts. The modern Filipino martial arts that we know today started in a place in the Philippines called Cebu in the northern Philippines. And there is evidence of it still there today. The Christians came to the Philippines after Spain conquered them, specifically the Jesuits, the Catholics, and set up churches along the coastline. Well, one of the pastimes of the friars, being Spanish, was rapier and dagger fencing. So in the south, Mindanao, Sulu, places like that, the Muslim pirates were coming up and raiding the coastlines and taking prisoners and slaves and stuff like that. So they taught the indigenous people the Spanish fencing, and it actually has a name called I can't. Hold on just a second. La Verdadera Destreza, because I don't speak Spanish very well, which means the true art. And if you look at their footwork pattern in that Spanish fencing art, it's the same as the Filipino martial arts. So they taught them that to defend themselves against the Muslim raiders coming up. And that is the history of modern Filipino martial arts.
I found it on Google. La Verdadera
Destreza.
Hold on, let me post it up here. I'll put it in the comments and put it on the screen so people can see the spelling of that. There you go.
Fast forward through time, and more things were either added or taken away from it, right? So you had a lot of Filipinos immigrate to America. And in World War II, in 1942, there was a regiment of Filipinos. And the history on it's fascinating. So these guys volunteer because Japan overthrew the Philippines. MacArthur left, and they had to leave U.S. troops and Filipinos behind. And there's a saying in the Philippines that 3 years of occupation was 1,000,000 times worse than 300 years of rule by the Spanish. Three years of occupation by the Japanese were worse than 300 years of rule by the Spanish. The Battle of Manila, 1945. If everybody needs to read that, especially if you're a Filipino martial artist, but be prepared to get a anger in you that you just almost can't suppress it. So the Filipino martial arts have been used in actual combat in World War II up to Vietnam. So they were issued their bolo machete, and they were taught through a guy named W.E. Fairbairn and Sykes what they referred to as combat judo. That is the empty hand version that the Filipinos used, was taught in World War II, and carried on. Now, a lot of them also learned what they talked about as panantukan or suntukan, which is the boxing, which we refer to as street boxing, because you eye jab and step on people's feet and kick them in the groin before you ever punch them. so it's not like a square up boxing match. But there's a lot of Filipino heroes. There's a man named Leo Heron. There's a street named after him in Stockton, California. He is a real war hero. He was dropped off in the Philippines behind enemy lines and reported to MacArthur directly, gave troop movement so the United States could retake. And he, a matter of fact, I want to show this. This was gifted to me. This is a book that he wrote that is, dude, this thing's so rare, it's unbelievable. And one of his students gifted this to me, and it is a recount or a small recount of his time in war in the Philippines. And there's a lot of other guys. I mentioned him, and there's so many. There was Antonio Ilustrisimo, also known as Tatang, and he was a very famous duelist. Man, this dude was a killer. And he went through all these duels with this blade and lived and went on to teach people. Then you got Johnny Lacosta, Angel Cabales, Cacoa Cañete, and the names go on and on. But all of these guys helped develop what we now know as the Filipino martial arts, and each one of them distinctly had their own system. Well, what I'm leading to is this, is Mark Denny and Eric and Arlen, through their training, they have touched some of them firsthand with a lot of these people that I've named. So they've taken from these grandfathers, as we call them, and put it into the Dog Brothers. So the stuff that we're doing is Filipino, but at the same time, it sometimes my mind, I can't use my words, like I'm not the smartest guy in the world. So what I'm trying to say is we're pulling from the best pool you could possibly get. Does that make sense?
For the record, I'm comparing you to my college professors giving me history lessons and how articulate it sounded, and then you're saying that you're not sounding smart. You're doing phenomenal, man. This is you're just giving us so much knowledge at once. Yeah, no, that makes complete sense.
Well, I feel like there's other things that I'm leaving out. I don't want to leave anybody out, but I'm going to. One of the major arts that our art is based on is from a guy named Leo Gahe, which is Pakiti Tertia Kali. And I had gotten some training from a guy that was, a Pakiti Tertia man, but that is one of our our footwork. Most of our footwork comes from Pakiti Tertia. But we also pull from these arts, and it's been such a pleasure to train with Mark and hear these stories. Even if we're just on the phone or if we're on a Zoom, I can always get a story out of him where he's been to the Philippines or he's met or interviewed or trained with one of these guys, and he's always got some great stories, man. And it's just, this art is so, and the Dog Brothers specifically, it's so fulfilling to me as an art, and it's given me more than I can ever give back to them, ever. I can't repay them for the knowledge and the skill that they've given me. And my skill's down here. These guys are up here and I'm down here, and I still just feel so indebted to them for what they've done.
Who do you think is, or who do you feel like is your biggest influence on your martial arts journey? You mentioned a lot of names back there, so I was kind of curious overall for like
Mark.
I know you,
Crafty, and I'll tell you why. Crafty has a martial knowledge about him. We can be talking on the phone, and I did a few years of Kung Fu, and we'll talk about something, or he'll demonstrate something. I was like, "Who'd you get that from?" And he's like, "Nobody, I just whatever." I was like, "Bro, I was taught that by a teacher and told not to show that. And you're telling me you didn't, nobody." He's like, "No, I figured out." Then it's like, he has a martial knowledge, a way of figuring things out like I've never seen before in my life. And he's kind of a philosopher. So he's extremely talented in the martial arts, but he has a mind to dissect things and see things that you can't. And then not only that, he can portray it to you. I've met a bunch of guys that were tough and could freaking fight like a wildcat. They couldn't show you crap. He can show you. He can teach you to do it.
Sounds like a Donna.
That's who I try to pattern myself off of.
Okay. I get that.
Comparing him to Danaher, I can see that. But like, yeah, I see what you're saying there. That is a good comparison.
Well,
Yeah,
I'll
I
give you
feel
a
like
prime example. He brought jiu-jitsu to the Dog Brothers. Machado, he was training with, I don't know if it was Jean-Jacques or I don't remember which one it was. But one of the guys kept getting him in headlocks and stuff rolling on the ground. Crafty goes and trains jiu-jitsu for 4 weeks, I think was the story. Lets the guy roll him into a headlock, gets out of the headlock and submits him right out there on the ground. So he had the martial knowledge of, hey, this guy keeps doing this. I got to figure out a way to get out of this. Oh, guess what? Jiu-jitsu's got the answer, so I'm going to go train jiu-jitsu for a while.
So, and that's something I wanted to ask you about, because I feel like, and you've touched on this a little bit throughout this podcast, that is, it's very hard to maintain the balance, right? Because you've told me this expressly multiple times. You live and breathe to pass this lineage on, to pass this knowledge on. Yeah, the culture is important to you. That's why. And for the record, I want to touch specifically on what you've got going on at Apex with your class, what your vision is for that here in just a second as well. But like, you run into this issue of all of these different quote unquote traditional martial arts where you start trying to evolve or look at what works, and they start saying, well, that's not Wing Chun, that's not FMA, that's not karate. And so how do you, it seems like the Dog Brothers in a way have found a way to balance that, like to bring in the historical roots of what works, but still passing on the lineage with it. I think it's something that's different to FMA is, you know, when you talk about, and I just keep using Wing Chun just because that's what I have a little bit of knowledge of talking to people about. There's 700 different stories about how Wing Chun got started. Apparently a woman learned it, she taught it to somebody else, and then there's 17 different stories about how that fight went, and Ip Man made it famous. You can list the wars. You can list, this is the battle this was used in. This is the, like, these are the interviews and the fighters that did this. Like, how do you, I'm sorry I went on a whole rant instead of asking a question, but how do you focus on maintaining that balance, especially something like with the Dog Brothers, of showing what works while maintaining its history and legacy?
I personally think it's very easy. Crafty and the guys have made a point to honor what we call the grandfathers. As a matter of fact, on YouTube, I don't know if they're all of them are up. You can get on their website, dogbrothers.com, and see them full length, and they may be on YouTube under their YouTube channel. But he has done interviews with 99% of the guys I just named to honor them and take, you know, from what they're passing forward, and we go forward. So things adjust or adapt over time. So one of the things is you can do everything with a blade that you can do with a stick, but you can't do everything with a stick that you can do with a blade. Doesn't translate. There's a technique called an abanico. I can get you with an abanico, and it may stun you, but it ain't going to stop you. I do that abanico with a live blade, show's over. So what I'm getting at here is this: when it comes to stick fighting versus blade fighting, grappling will happen. Punching will happen. Kicking will happen. So if all you know how to do is just swing a stick, and you haven't looked at other things that are going to help you become a better martial artist, a better Filipino martial artist, you are kind of missing the boat, because those guys would have done it too were they still alive. They're not alive anymore, or they would have done it also. So going and finding good jiu-jitsu that translate, because you've seen full contact sparring, it's going to go to the ground. You don't have some wrestling or jiu-jitsu, you're in trouble. You don't have some basic hand and footwork, you're in trouble.
You need at least a good takedown defense. I feel like the clinch and the takedown defense, at the very least, if you're gonna tell me that you can prevent a stand up or a takedown or it prevents it from going to the ground with someone who specializes in the ground game.
No, you can't.
You best have a really good takedown defense or a strategy for getting back up, because they're going to take you down one way or another. They have like at least 5 different ways to get you down there, and they're going to bring you down.
Every time. Every time.
Which I think that goes into playing their game too, right? Because another thing that you showed us early on is, and you showed us some of these videos where you're going to have that gut instinct. I mean, when I approached you and I said, hey, man, I know FMA is your thing, but you've got this background at the JKD and stuff, you know, how do you approach this? What do you fall back on? I remember the 1 5-second sparring session where you were like, well, show me how you would approach somebody. And I came at you to throw something, and I'm expecting to like get blocked or trapped or you shoot a takedown. No, I just got thrown, and then halfway through the air, something was in my stomach. And then I'm like, wait a second. Like, and you see this in the videos too, right? Which, okay, you got me to the ground. I'm not worried about the armbar because I've got a knife stuck in my belt that you didn't know about. Like, they add a touch of realism to it that no one should think, no one should be blind enough to think, oh yeah, well, you know, I know how to swing a stick. He's not going to take me down. But you can utilize how to use that stick once you get to the ground to get them off of you. Or you can utilize having a backup plan that they're not expecting. I feel like the main problem is we saw a martial art that was introduced for sport become what seems to be the end-all be-all of self. What people seem to act like it's the end-all be-all of self-defense. And it's not the same thing if you're not training it to be that way.
So I want to, hopefully we have enough time to cover. I feel like there's so many things, but let's address what you were talking about. I just see somebody's commented wanting to know if I would think DBA be a best for someone wanting to learn self-defense. And that goes right with what you're saying. So DBMA, Dog Brothers Martial Arts, incorporates stick, knife, and empty hand and gun. We do interface interchangeably through all of them. You're not always going to carry a stick with you. You may have an axe handle in your car. You may have a collapsible baton. But you can carry a knife in all 50 states legally. Depends on what it's done. Of course, that's what I love about Kentucky. I can literally have anything. You go to California, you can't have a double edge, and it can only be so long. But guess what?
You can't have nothing
Death by 1,000 cuts. So we teach a self-defense aspect. It's not all getting out on the field of honor, as Crafty calls it, young male ritualistic hierarchical combat. We also teach self-defense for 54-year-old men. I'm not going to square up hip to hip with you, and there's no ring girl going to walk around us and say, are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get it on. You jump on me with my wife and my kid as a 54-year-old man, I'm going to defend myself the best way I know how and what I've been taught. And I'm not going to say any more than that. But so yes, we do cover self-defense, man. We use empty hands because you know as well as I do, you get to swinging a stick over and over and over. There's a thing called a hammer fist, and it works really nice. Everything we do translates from a stick to a knife, pointed in either direction. Yeah. To empty hand. We also have guys box. Most all of the guys in Dog Brothers Martial Arts either box or Muay Thai. All the guys in Dog Brothers Martial Arts are jiu-jitsu practitioners or wrestle.
I'm going to ask you a controversial question.
Yes, sir.
The backwards knife. I've heard that's terrible.
It's distance oriented. So saber grip, I have more distance, correct?
Sure.
If I switch it, that's, you can smell my breath distance. That's dancing distance, as I like to call it in class. And there's a lot of techniques that come from the ice pick grip. One grip is not necessarily better than other. It's like real estate. It's location, location, location.
Okay.
So and there's something else you have to understand about the Filipino martial arts. This is probably one of my favorite stories Crafty ever told me. and it holds true to what we do. And I'm going to try to get it. If you guys get to talk to him, he'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the gist of it is this. He was at a demonstration watching two guys knife spar or show knife techniques. There was an older Filipino gentleman sitting next to him, and Crafty just kind of looks at him and says, "Pretty good, aren't they?" And he said, the old man looked at him and said, "Yeah, they're not bad. They're doing it wrong." Said he didn't say anything else. He sat there a minute and he's like, "I had to ask, what do you mean they're doing it wrong?" And he said, the guy looked him straight in his eye and he said, "He's attacking him from the front." That's the difference between sport and reality. Do you understand what I'm saying?
And yeah, unfortunately, well, without stepping too big into it, I think we've definitely seen some real life knife violence in the media and everything, a lot more in the last few months. And it's never two guys pulling knives out like they're lightsabers and doing a salute and then having a 5-minute choreography. It's no different than getting sucker punched. And I think a lot of people don't understand that it's not that it's that much different. It's that there's zero room for error. Like if you hit me and we're arguing and I let you get close to me and you sucker punch me, yeah, that sucked. You might knock me out. And I mean, that's a whole nother scenario. If you don't, I might be able to eat a couple. I don't watch where your hands are going and I don't see what's in your hand. And then you hit me with something. And I mean, it's over. I mean, by the time you realize what's going on, and it's really important for people to understand that. And that's why I would have loved to see more jiu-jitsu guys, more wrestlers, more boxers get involved with something like this, because it's not that what you're doing doesn't work. It's that what you're doing is designed for a different playing field. Like, you need to learn the self-defense now. If you know how to do that and you can apply that to whatever it is you know, great. But there's too much debate about, well, DBMA is best, or jiu-jitsu is best, or boxing is best. It's not about just the fight, though. And it seems to be what makes you guys a little bit different is it's the actual self-defense scenario that they're applying, the entire picture, not just, oh, we're here and our fists are out.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. If I'm training to defend myself in the street, and I always make that caveat if I'm working with somebody. Hey, this is stick fighting. All right, put your stick down. This is, you're coming out of Walmart. Now you're in between two cars. Somebody's come up behind you and said, "Excuse me." You turn around. Somebody else comes from the other end. What do? You open the door and put it between. You got to be able to do something. Don't sit there and take it like the French. You got to be able to do something. So that's the real life scenarios that we try to train. Everything starts, like the Gracie said, everything starts standing up. But there's a good chance it could go to the ground if you don't know how to do something or defend yourself or stop the takedown. But listen, I also had a teacher tell me, if you walk outside unarmed, you're foolish. It's silly. He's like, why would you walk outside into the world unarmed? He said, you're just being silly now.
Mainly because
there's a balance there, you know?
And it's
but that's
funny.
The Filipino way, man, is we don't. One of the guys told me, he said, if you're fighting empty hand, you've done something wrong. You've dropped your knife. What's wrong with you? Now, I know that's going to the extreme. You can't pull a knife on everybody that gives you trouble. And I don't mean, that's not what I'm saying. But as the world's getting worse, and what you just mentioned, you walk out at nighttime in a parking lot and dark, and there's 2 or 3 cats roll up on you. They're not coming up to get your autograph. You probably need an argument in hand.
How often do you really think it happens though, where people I've been in more fist fights than I've been in knife fights.
Well, of course, absolutely. That's why I just said you're not going to do it. But where I live, it doesn't happen like that. I'm talking about the world at large. Where
you guys are, Jeremy's told me some horror stories from him working at the gas station. I don't blame him for carrying.
Of course. Again, location.
It is different. Yeah, him being in New York, when I tell him that I carry day to day, just going to work, he literally looked at me and went, what do you mean you're carrying? I'm like, yeah, bro, I'm at work. Like, this is a sketchy gas station. Like, they've got robbed 3 times last year. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, people
Like,
in New York are neutered.
Most people in New York who conceal carry will not tell you. Like they try to keep it on the DL
Oh,
as much.
absolutely. I wouldn't tell
To be
anybody.
fair, I'm not gonna steal most. Yeah,
That's a good point that I'd like to bring up. Outside of the United States, and listen, even in my experience when I was younger, getting in bar fights and things like that, it was so rare to be a one-on-one fist fight. Somebody was jumping in, either their friends or our friends. Outside of the United States, nobody, and you can ask some military cats, my military friends have told me all about going around the world. Nobody fights empty-handed. Everybody picks up something, a brick, a bottle, a stick, something, a knife, and there's always more than one. It's only this, I think, European thing and us having boxing matches on TV that there's an illusion that when you get in a fight somewhere that 2 guys are going to be like, okay, come on, buddy, we're going to see who's the best. And it ain't like that, and it ain't like that anymore. Look, turn on the news. You know, so I always, especially at my age, and a couple of dings here and there, man, it's just not gonna go down like that, man. I don't know what else to say about that. I will never take anything away from the MMA crowd or community. There's some of the top athletes in the world, and yes, they can defend themselves, but most of them are in their early 20s too. Highly athletic, highly trained. I'm a 54-year-old man.
I don't know. I don't want to meet Rampage in the dark.
No, because look at the training he had in the past also. So if you understand what I'm saying, though. But what I'm saying, does it make sense, though? So, we train empty-handed. We train judo. I've been training judo and jiu-jitsu and all this. I'm really not any good at any of them, but I'm not comparing myself against Gracie's. I'm comparing myself against Joe Blow in the street that's going to try to mug me.
I want to step into that as well, because this is something else we've talked about, and I'm going to be a little bit vague to it because I don't want to go too much into your background unless it's something you've given us express to say, but you worked in a certain environment that you've told me about where jiu-jitsu turned out to be a superpower. Yeah. Would you like to go into that a little bit? Because I think that's a little bit different going in and say, wait, in that environment, you kind of know your surroundings a little bit more. You're a little bit less concerned about somebody pulling something extra like that, and you have that. So, let me give you the platform on that.
So I started in 2016 at the local jail here in McCracken County, and I spent about 5 years down there. And as a deputy jailer, corrections officer, whatever you want to call it, whether you like it or not, you're responsible for that inmate. So if you damage that inmate, you're going to go to court and answer for why you did it. There's cameras everywhere. Well, that place is very overcrowded. And you've met some of the other guys too. When I tell you we were fighting every week, somebody was fighting every week. So I started learning from Eli and Jason, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, the basics. Bro, second stripe white belt, no lie, it's like a freaking superpower. And I never hurt anybody permanently, and I only kind of hurt one guy because it kind of got a little bad, and I kneed him in the face probably a couple times more than I should have. Everything ended up okay, but man, I'm telling you, the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu combatives, if you're just a regular cat on the street and you want to learn to defend yourself, that's a lot of that stuff's what I show. But let me tell you something. That's also the exact same thing that was taught to the Marine Raiders in 1942 called combat judo. It hasn't changed at all. But yes, oh my gosh, dude, it works great. It saved my butt over a dozen times down there. And yes, that is one time where you had backup on the radio. There was cameras. They would call fight. So when you're fighting this cat, you know your help is on the way. And 99% of the time, the other inmates will not get involved because it's charges. But yes, it saved my butt over a dozen times.
with Gracie Combatives, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, that's not Henzo, that's Henner, and he's and I'm gonna call it straight up what it is. It's an asshole move. He went to court and testified against a coach because he didn't use his style of instruction, which ironically, and this is for better or worse, has online belts, which in my opinion automatically disqualifies you from legitimacy. But somehow this testimony was the establishing merit that fucked over the whole jiu-jitsu community, insurance wise. All the gyms' insurance rates went up because of this asshole.
I saw that, and that's because they wanted their name to only be able to teach. I just called it Gracie Combatives. Mine actually came from Hoist. That's who my teacher Jason was under, but they're identical. There's no difference in the techniques. But yeah, I heard about that online thing, and my opinion on that is they did that to try to set themselves up as the only combatives you should be teaching at your school.
So Henner in his school, and I may be wrong, and someone can correct me in the comments if I am. I just want to make sure that I'm not speaking out of turn or out of line here. But I'm pretty sure they won't let white belts roll, which is highly disputed in the jiu-jitsu community. A lot of people feel like it's important in order to learn the mechanics and the basics and understand the things that you need to progress to blue belt, you need to roll. And you may, I don't know how you feel on that situation, but one thing I was curious about, you mentioned you got up to your 2 straight white belt, and you mentioned that you felt like it at that point was a superpower. One thing I've learned in jiu-jitsu is the importance of pressure control. This is something that you see in wrestling. You see it in a lot of high-level jiu-jitsu. People think a lot of time it's just in the technique, but there's a certain level of pressure that's applied at certain points of technique. And once you have that understanding of that flow and that mobility, it gives you a certain level of control over someone on the ground that, like you said, is like almost superhuman. You feel like Superman. You can control a big ass dude with literally just a certain applied pressure and leverage.
Yes. Now I'm not a jiu-jitsu man, so I speak from Rodney's experience only. I don't even have my blue belt, man. So one of the things, this is like an axiom from Wing Chun. I trained with Jason. I trained with Eli Knight. Eli used to put the gloves on and attack me like a pit bull, like somebody. He didn't attack me like a jiu-jitsu man. He attacked me like somebody in the jail or the street would. And Jason worked with me on finer techniques. And one of the things we would do is he'd push or he'd pull. And you had to. It was like Chisao, except you're waiting to feel that weight distribution, and he would teach me, am I being pushed, am I being pulled, or are we standing still? And you basically could learn to do your jiu-jitsu with your eyes closed off the pressure he was giving you. Between him doing that with me and Eli attacking me like an unchained dog and being able to pull it off, that's what gave me, what I feel was protect me, because we all know the techniques work. And the great thing is most people do not know how to fight. Luckily, it's not because Rodney knows how to fight. It's because the jiu-jitsu works and most people don't know how to fight. I mean, honestly.
There's the amount of people don't understand what they don't know until they end up in that situation. I remember being right up the road over here, it was a couple years ago, man. Literally across the street from just hamburgers, and these 2 guys got into a fight on the sidewalk, and I watched it happen. One of them got out of his car. One of them walked up to the other guy's car and started hitting on the window, and then he started walking off, and dude came out and they were fighting, and they ended up getting into the scuffle, and this dude is sitting here laid on his shoulder blades on his back. I mean, his head is probably a couple inches from the road. And like all of these cars are stopping on Jackson Street because the dude didn't know what he was doing. And dude's the guy that was on top of him is standing over him, leaning down with both hands holding him by his shirt, yelling at him. And I'm just sitting here thinking like, man, if either of you had a clue of what you were doing right now, you would not be in this predicament. Like, this is your life is in danger. There is traffic stopping to keep from killing you by accident. And you walked up bashing on this dude's window and you have no fucking clue to fight. Like, it's mind-boggling and to see the levels to it. And I mean, at the same time, you know, you take the jiu-jitsu, you take the FMA, but you have to learn something. You have to be put in a situation where you're shown you don't know. Because if you aren't proven, if you don't experience it, until you feel somebody who knows how to grapple grab you, you're going to think whatever you want because you won a couple fights in the cafeteria. It's not the same thing.
And thank God I had two good friends, Jason Hawkins and Eli Knight, because after I had gone through my Kung Fu experience and stuff like that, I wasn't sure about Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and stuff. So I go to the school, and both of them on separate occasions proved to me what I didn't know, but they did it in a way that made me say, you know what? Thank you. Sign me up right now. You know, instead of, they could have done something to me and made me walk away with my tail between my legs and I'd have never gone back. But they did it in a manner to show me you don't know what you don't know. You need this and you need this now. So that, I'm very thankful to the both of them. And like I say, I'm not a jiu-jitsu man. I like training it, but I can train it for an hour. I'm done. You put a stick and a knife in my hand, man, I'll train with you all day long. Take a break, come back, and I'm talking 8 or 10 hours. I never get tired of the Filipino martial arts. I never get tired of training it. But it's also multifaceted. Do what?
You don't like horsing around on the mats?
Man, it's just not my thing, man. And I needed it. And I've got a little, enough to save my rear end in a bad situation. But as far as like training it on a regular basis, I enjoy judo. And we do, of course, newaza groundwork, but I like throws. One throw will end a fight. One throw will end a fight.
That's true.
And so I really like judo because judo is incorporated into the traditional, what the Marine Raiders were taught, and the Filipino Bolo group that went into World War II. That was the stuff they were taught. And I try to keep that alive. That's one of the things. I want to carry the torch forward. I don't want this stuff to die. It was good enough to work in World War II, empty hand. It's good enough to work right now. And it wasn't a whole lot of techniques. And it was judo or jiu-jitsu based. And the name back then was interchangeable. Judo and jiu-jitsu were the same freaking thing. Mm-hmm. And so the techniques were exactly the same as what you see taught as the combatives. And that's kind of what I've spent the most time with. Like, I could get on the ground and roll with you, and you're gonna beat me like a freaking drum.
Oh, you don't get ahead of yourself. I'm only blue belt, blue stripe.
It's not my thing, but I do incorporate it because I'm smart enough to know I gotta have it. I'm not so stupid as to think, oh, I can't do without it. That's just foolishness.
So I mean, you're talking.
Question here.
Okay, what's up?
Question.
It's a question. Let's see. What's up in the Dalton? I cannot pull up the comments, John. It's got to be you or Dalton.
Dalton Renault just said I got a real quick question.
And Dalton, he'll be right back.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's him in our that's Dalton in the chat below.
What have we not covered?
I wanted to touch on what you've got going on at Apex. What your vision is for your class. What you're offering. Just kind of show people now that you've gone into what you do, where they can get into that here in Paducah.
Okay. Well, so my vision for me is to, just like I said before, carry the torch forward. I want to keep the tradition alive. There's something to it. I don't want it to die. That's like my full moon training, because during Japanese occupation and at other times, even in America, the Filipinos would do a lot of their training on the 3 days of the full moon, the day before, the apex, and the day after, because that's the light that they gave it. Nobody saw them, and they trained it in secret. I still do that. I still have full moon training, even if it's me by myself in the backyard, swinging a stick and a knife on my tire and moving around. And it's kind of like the whole thing of Christmas Vacation. My son said something one time. My wife was like, they already know what your dad's up to. They don't even pay any attention anymore. But not only that, but I want to represent the Dog Brothers Martial Arts in the best way that I can so that I maintain the tradition, but I also bring forward into the future what I will tell you through my experience. And again, this is a very bold, and it's a claim that some people won't like, but the Dog Brothers is absolutely the highest expression of the Filipino martial arts today. It is 100%.
Rob Ingram would agree with you. Jeremy wanted to ask Rob on the episode, and Rob beat him to the punch. He just instantly shouted them out.
Yeah, man, listen. And it's because of the laboratory, as Crafty calls it. It's the testing. It's the pressure testing, finding out what works. If you see it taught, you see it fought. And that's the great thing about it. And that's what makes it, in my opinion, the highest expression of the Filipino martial arts today. So I want to carry it forward. I'm teaching at Apex, but I'm just going to be 100% honest with you, man. They're making a move to another school. And I don't know that I'm going to go because nobody cares. I'm just going to be 100% honest with you. Nobody cares. Jiu-jitsu, MMA, stuff like that, man, it has a giant following. There's millions of people in America that are training this stuff. There's probably only thousands of people that are training Eskrima in America. Nobody cares, man. They see it, they be like, it's cool. Nobody wants to get involved in it. So I don't know that my future here is really gonna do much of anything, man, because I've got 3 people that show up, 2 on a regular basis.
I'd like to give you maybe a little motivation. You're pretty connected in the community. One thing that we talked about with Mark Towns was the issue within the traditional martial arts communities of bickering over legitimacy. People bickering over who's legit Jeet Kune Do, who's legit Taekwondo, who's legit Krav Maga, who's legit Aikido, blah, 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 and there's always a back and forth. In the jiu-jitsu community, that doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in the boxing community. Either your art works in the competition or it doesn't. And there's different forms of competition, all of which are recognized as legitimate, as long as they follow the standard rules. I think, which is pretty much like, you start on your feet, don't start on your butt. We get a lot of shit for that, but realistically, if you don't train on your feet, you're losing points immediately, even in a point competition, unless you're doing sub only. But at which point, if they're sitting on the ground, they probably have a technique for getting you down there with them. But no, I feel like if the TMA community, Eskrima, Arnis, Cali, kind of came together and solidified more, it would have more of a stronger incentive for people to join. And that's my biggest criticism is I feel like if I say I signed up with you, right, but then I went to New York City to train, that guy's going to tell me how you're shit and I shouldn't train with you, and I might like you, and that now makes me not want to go train with him either, and now it just feels like there's not a sense of community. It's just
always been like that. Always been like this. I don't want to say especially the Filipinos, but it is.
No, it's everywhere. It is
everywhere. But that's one thing in the Dog Brothers. You will never hear Crafty disparage another Filipino martial artist ever. He will never say a bad thing about him, and we don't either. I may say that I prefer this to that, but I will never disparage another Filipino martial artist. But there's a lot of them out there that do.
Do you think that that's because the martial arts, and I'm just brainstorming this while we're sitting here talking about it, is a lot of the martial arts that seem to have that issue are a lot more tied culturally to a specific group. right? Like MMA it's international. I mean, everybody's everywhere does MMA, right? You start trying to say some shit Wing Chun that isn't, you just like insulted somebody's great granddad. Like, it's way more like particular than we have different viewpoints. It's no, this is our art. Like you see the and this where you get into the weird spellings, right? Like the Liang Ting guys are that way. You know, they spell their Wing Chun TSUN, and I've seen people get their ass jumped on social media before because they're like, "Why did you use that spelling? And who are you?" Right? And it's very. And as for what you were saying with the Apex stuff, man, I've seen it, John. I watched a whole thing happen. That was how they outed one dude as a fraud, was because he started using that spelling, and then they were like, "Wait a second," and then they started digging into him a little bit more. And next thing you know, it's like, "Wait, you just made all this up." But what you're saying, man, with the with that, yeah, that's what I meant to ask is, do you think that it's more of a cultural identity thing? Do you think that it's more of a in terms of the arguing, and do you think that the more of the attraction to MMA and to boxing and stuff like that is because the common person is focused less on self-defense and more on sports and media?
Well, the first part of the question is yes, because each one of these styles. So every family in the Philippines would have had a style, or a village would have had a style. So let's take, for example, one of the guys you'll hear me talk about, Leo Heron, because he is a real war hero. He really used Eskrima in hand-to-hand combat with the Japanese. So he has a lineage with his son and other people. So yes, if somebody says, "Oh, I don't like Bahalana Eskrima," you didn't insult Eskrima, you just insulted Leo Heron. And that ain't gonna fly. Same way with Angel Cabales and Sarata Eskrima. Same way with Keko Quinete and Doce Perez and all these other different ones. They're a style, but there is a man and a family behind that style. So the only place I've ever seen it come together is the Dog Brothers, where we share. We have guys from different styles. We have guys from different backgrounds. We have guys from different religions. And so far, man, everybody that I have met in this group have been so kind and willing to help me. A guy that I just recently got in like phone contact with a lot is a guy named Mall Dog, Carlos Flores. He's out of Chicago or close to Chicago. So I'm part of his Midwest group. And this dude is like sending me videos on what they're doing. Rodney, try this, because sometimes it's the whole, just like we did, nobody cares. And he's like, "Man, don't get down, just do this." So this group of guys with the Dog Brothers, that's another thing to me that makes them the highest form. There's no arguing. Nobody's arguing about what style you're in, because we're all the same. We all go out and we all stick fight, or we practice to stick fight, or we practice empty hand. And some cat may come to you and be like, "Hey man, I used to practice Greco-Roman. Let me show you this crossface that I know works. Come here and I'll show you real quick." Because they're trying to bring you up. They're not out there trying to beat you down. That's one of the things I love about these guys so much. But at the same time, we recognize and we honor the grandfathers, the people that this come from. What was the second part of the question I got? Sorry.
No.
That's also because I have a habit of giving you a 30-minute long run-on sentence.
No, it's fine. I get fixated on something about because it means so much to me, and my answers extend out.
That's awesome, because it's showing, and that is one of the things I want to touch on there is it seems like the Dog Brothers seem like they have a lot of that JKD philosophy in a way, yes, except they aren't all sitting here arguing over what Bruce Lee's vision was. Everybody already knows that it's supposed to be a melting pot, right? Now it's, well, we're the melting pot, but what company did the melting pot come from? And it's this whole argument like, so the second question on that was, do you think that people are focusing more, or they're focusing less on FMA and more on stuff like boxing and MMA and stuff because of the media presence on it? Because I don't see a lot of people. Well, I'm sorry. Let me figure out how to rephrase that better. It's the
saying no. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, they're trying to find self-defense skills, and I feel like there's no exposure to MMA. 90% of people in the world know how to box or think they know how to box. Even somebody who doesn't know how to fight, they're going to sit there and do this, and they're going to look like they might think they know what they're doing until they throw a punch and go, okay, yeah, he's a dipshit. But, like, if you don't have that basic knowledge of what everyone's doing, maybe that's changed people's opinion of that's what a fight is, and that's what they gravitate towards.
Yes. So, what is the UFC's tagline? They have a saying. What's their tagline?
Oh, now you're gonna make me go Google it. Hold on.
As real as it gets.
So yeah,
it's 93 when Hoist came out to whatever they're on now. I quit watching it a decade ago. It's more like WWF to me now. No disrespect to MMA guys, but when it first come out, you're like, holy crap. And now with all the glitz and the glory and the money and all that stuff,
I think it's part of
years ago.
UFC.
So, do what, sir? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, throwing shade at UFC. Yeah, obviously I'm a fan, but like it certainly has become much more of a production company than it is a fight company at this point.
Yeah, well, but when your tagline is as real as it gets, people gravitate towards that. So number one, they're learning to fight. Number two, they film themselves and they go on Instagram and TikTok, so they get instant gratification. Number three, there's a chance, it's a 1 in a million chance, but there's a chance they could get paid to fight and become a professional athlete fighter. And they think of all these things that come with it. Now then, you take something like the Filipino Martial Arts, there's no glory, there's no trophies and no awards in Dog Brothers. The only award is your friends at the end of the day, and nobody spends the night in the hospital. So when you compare these things, people look at it and be like, oh, I can learn MMA as real as it gets, or I can go over here with these weirdos and swing sticks and knives and other stuff that I don't know that's going to work or not. Are the MMA guys capable of defending themselves? 100%. I'll never say they're not. They're tremendous athletes. Are Dog Brothers guys able to defend themselves in the street? I promise you they will. It may not be exactly like them cats do, but I guarantee you they'll defend themselves in the street every time.
Here's a stupid question. Why don't the FMA guys go out and like do a tournament kind of like UFC? You know, set up.
That's a great question.
I know where you're going with this. I'm gonna let Rodney have the
with
FMA. If you'll look up on dogbrothers.com,
let's get some comments. Let's get some comments. Let's set up matches. Let's get some FMA guys versus each other. You know, let's set up like a whole promotion. You guys put your sticks. Well, obviously you probably have to pad up or something so no one dies when you schwack them in the head. But you know,
so just like pitched that to Dana White back. I don't remember the year, but the refusal letter is on dogbrothers.com, and Dana White told him it was too extreme for the UFC.
Hit up bare knuckle boxing. They'll probably do it. Bare
I don't know. That's a question for Crafty. Jeremy has his contact information. I'm 54. I'm not going to do it. You know, maybe some of but now listen, we've got MMA cats in our organization. We've got MMA cats in our organization. Crafty has worked with professional MMA people in California. I couldn't tell you their name. You'd have to ask him, but I know for a fact he's worked with some of them. So there are elements that we bring from that. But you have to understand, so some of the defense things that I teach myself with my students are the 18-inch rule. Most fights in the street take place 18 inches away. Watch for the tails, the facial grooming, all that stuff like that. And you have to be first. Well, what are you going to be first with? You're going to be first with an eye jab. You're going to be first with a punch to the throat. You're going to be first with a kick to the groin, a punch to the throat, and an elbow to the temple. We're not going to stand up here and trade. I'm not going to trade with you. I can't trade with you. I'm number one, not physically able at my age. And number two, I'm smarter than that. I'm going to try to get behind you to where you cannot defend yourself. These are things they're not going to allow. Elbows to the back of the head, they're not going to allow it. And I'm not saying this to be like, oh, we're better than MMA guys, and that's why they won't let us in. It's just, it doesn't. I'm not going to be able to give you the answer that you or your listeners are looking for, because no matter what I say, it's either going to be construed as me saying I'm too dangerous for the ring, and I'm not saying that, or it's going to be construed as saying what we do won't work, and it's neither one.
Have you seen the HEMA guys yet? Like
yes, absolutely. Full armored contact going out there with the swords. Oh my gosh, it's great.
You've seen the HEMA MMA, right?
Yes, I sure have.
So, I mean, like, you guys could definitely, like, fuck working with the UFC. You guys, like, there are small promotions. I feel like if you did something, like, I mean, if Dog Brothers or whoever did something with a Cali Eskrima matches where, like, even if, like, you know, certain contact is like a TKO, right? That's reasonable. Like, one hit, like, to the back of the head, that's reasonable. Because, like, if I hit you in the back of the head the right way, it's done. You know, but you could also have certain gear made specifically for that type of lineup that would prevent life-altering damage, but would allow you guys certain blows that wouldn't.
I don't think that's the vision, though.
No,
the
I'm just saying,
is
like, for, like,
higher consciousness through. Well,
like,
maybe
getting that reach, getting in front of people, like, that's what the UFC did for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Sure.
Was they positioned themselves to be in front of a large scale market, and what FMA is missing is putting itself in front of a large scale market.
What are we missing? What are we missing?
Like I said, how do you get in front of a large scale market?
Maybe
like,
that's not what we're. I don't have the desire to be large scale. Filipino martial arts was never large scale. It was always secretive, small groups. Now then, the Dog Brothers has brought it out, and a lot of people have copied off the Dog Brothers and don't give them credit. As a matter of fact, there's a bunch of them that are copying off the Dog Brothers. They were the first to do full contact stick fight. And Crafty has a saying at the gatherings: there's no trophies, there's no awards. Be friends at the end of the day and don't spend the night in the hospital. I don't think their vision is to get. Maybe it is. Mine's not. Mine is to have a small group of guys and or girls pass this on, and hopefully they can teach it some else. I have no desire to get in front of a large crowd. I have no desire to. That's not my thing. Maybe some of the other cats might take your advice and run with it, but not me.
I'm just thinking as like a way to propel the art into a greater audience. Just because
there's two different
earlier. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, two different mindsets here. Yeah, that's all. I mean, John's looking at it as how do you grow it to a larger community, and what do you have to do to grow it to do that. Rodney is saying we already have everything we need. This is the art in the form that it needs to be, and people are either going to accept that or they're not. And I see both sides of that, you know, like, because there's no way you can put it on a public scale without watering it down. You can't do it in a way that's totally acceptable and still acceptable and say this is real and to be acceptable. It's not going to happen. I mean, even when MMA came out, how long ago, we weren't able to gamble on MMA in Kentucky until like 2 years ago. When Leon Edwards knocked out Kamaru Usman, it was illegal to gamble in Kentucky until like 2 or 3 weeks after that. I remember that specifically because I wanted to put money on it. Like, the cultural view is just different. But at the same time, too, like, I saw a video the other day, man, and it was like, and the Wing Chun guys are about this stupid. I hate it. I hate seeing this crap where it's like world tournament contest ending in French or Russia or whatever. And they're sitting here in what looks like samurai armor, and they've got these tiny sticks, and they've already hit each other 200 times apiece. There's no stop. They're not even trying to block. They're just standing there just... What are you doing?
WEKAF. And we don't wear helmets. We wear masks. They wear a helmet. You cannot even feel when the stick hits you. You don't even feel it. I put one on one time, and they got that padding. So like you said, they're beating up snot out each other, and neither one of them feel it. and then they try to decide who's a winner and who's not. Now, let me backtrack a little bit. My opinion is my opinion only. I do not speak for the Dog Brothers or the Dog Brothers Martial Arts.
No.
I'm speaking for Rodney, and what my vision is in my area is to have a small group of dedicated people to learn this and pass it on. Crafty and the Dog Brothers Martial Arts Association, he may have your vision or another vision, because I know he reached out to Dana White years ago. We have not discussed that. So I don't know what his vision is for that. But myself, I just want to pass it on and keep doing what I'm doing.
And I wanted to go ahead and clarify too. Yes, you gave me that contact information. I intentionally waited until after this interview to reach out, just to make sure. I know you said something about that and you sent me the info, and I wanted to wait. But I will say this: I've seen a lot of interaction with Crafty on Facebook and stuff. Like, I don't know if I'm friends with him per se, or if he's just friends with you, then I'm seeing him pop on my feed and everything, but he's an interesting character, and I mean, I'm sure we can delve right into that, but I also understand you don't want to be misrepresented as you are representing an organization that you're not. I mean, 100%.
So, for him, that's exactly right. No, he is very interesting. He's very intelligent, and he's very articulate. And he's very funny, too. That's another thing. He has a pretty good sense of humor, man.
I saw a video the other day of him in one of the groups, man, and I was just sitting there thinking, man, he's like, what, 70-something years old? And
Yes,
he had one of those, like pistol grip shotguns, man. Like the ones that are like, and he's just sitting here just casually just shooting this thing off, and I'm like, man, that'd break both my wrists. You sitting here like 70 years old.
On it too. That's the great thing about it.
Smiling big ear to ear. But yeah, man, I wanted to go ahead, man, we are up to, this is actually one of the longer podcasts we've ever done, actually, which is phenomenal, man. I told you coming in that you are an absolute encyclopedia of knowledge. We have, like a little game trivia thing to do real quick. All right, yeah, bet, man. Is it game time? Is that what I'm hearing? Oh yes. Yeah, game time. Oh, yeah, I used the first gun. Did you see it? I set it up. Yeah. All right. John's so proud of that little emote thing. We gotta show it off every time. Yeah, we'll just have 3 questions for you, just some basic trivia. John, are you hosting this or am I?
No, it's all you, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, I was gonna say shoe, and you should have timed it like a second later. It's gonna be epic. I'm just kidding. Where did Bruce Lee open his first martial arts academy? Seattle. Boom. Yeah, Roddy was on that one. All right, Dalton. Or is it John? Yeah. Okay. So, and we got the clap. Yeah, you the first to hear me. All right. That's 1 of 3. Seattle was the right answer. All right. On to question number 2. Which UFC fighter claimed a JKD background during their career? Was it A, Ben Saunders, B, Conor McGregor, or C, Rampage Jackson?
I don't know who A is, so I'm going with Ben Saunders. I don't even know who he is.
C, yep. All right, let's see. Ben Saunders, all right. Yes, so I looked into him earlier a little bit because I had not heard of him either. John was asking me some trivia questions, and apparently there was a couple articles that referenced him, but I need to do a little bit more research into exactly what his background is. But yeah, Ben Saunders apparently claimed JKD while he was competing in the UFC. And then we should have one more. All right. Which is a level in the Dog Brothers tribe?
That's going to be the dog.
Dog. Got you, man. It is on a timer. I got you. Well, dog, mother, puppy. Rodney said dog, and final answer is. All right. What's it gonna do? There we go. Oh, switch. Okay, puppy. Yeah, dog. Got you. And we have the Bruce Lee drum. Okay. Cool. Well, man, I just want to say thank you, Rodney. It has been an absolute honor having you on here today, man. You have such a encyclopedia
It's
of
all fine, guys. I appreciate it that you actually reached out to me and wanted to hear some old guy from Paducah, Kentucky talk about a passion of his.
I've told John a couple of times, man. I've tried to figure out what I want to do since I've become a part of this company, right? And part of it started off with, I already kind of knew John, and he was going to sponsor me for a fight that I was going to do for Agogi. I got injured, and I wanted to give back in a way, so I came in and started working with him a little bit. But, and this is something Jason told me when I first got into things, and I left Three Rivers very bluntly because I didn't think there was enough of a realistic factor to what was going on. That's my criticism. At the same time, though, I will say nothing that Jason ever said to me was incorrect. He just had a different view on it. He's not interested in being the most dangerous fighter in the world. He's worried about being able to do it till he's 100 years old. Now I'm sitting here going, man, this arm's tweaked, the shoulder's tweaked, my chest is torn. If I can give back and I can be a part of this community in any way, it would be so that I can come on here to a platform like this and I can have somebody like you who can have this interview, have this platform, put this out there, and this will always be out there on the internet. For till the end of time, somebody can go out there and look up Dog Brothers, they can look up Paducah FMA, and this will pop up. And it's important to me to give all of these people that voice, because if we start communicating more and coming together more as a community, I don't think we're going to have nearly the problems that we're having, and it'll be better for everybody involved.
Bro, listen, I can't believe you said that, because I was just talking about that today. And there's a saying that says, if you're remembered past 3 generations, you're part of history. And one thing that one of my people that I'm certified under, Paul Vunak, really preached was write books, write articles, put your name on something that's going to outlive you. You doing this will outlive you. As just a kind of a, I think I told you I got a couple books I wrote. You can find them on Amazon, things like that. I wanted my name on something that will outlive me. So what you're doing is very honorable and does give back, and you will be remembered. You will be part of history. Now, I'm not saying this from a selfish look at me point of view and Instagram, TikTok point of view, but something that carries on. Real information needs to be transmitted to the future, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it was beautifully said.
Thank you. And one more thing I wanted to tell you. I try not to interrupt the conversation flow too much, but the amount of comments and interaction that we have had on this podcast is top 3 by far. You can tell that the community has definitely been watching this. I know somebody just hopped in and said that you represented everybody extremely well, and that as well, Rodney. So yes, sir. Mulldog 777. Rodney, you represented it beautifully.
Thank you, brother.
Well done. So
And
yes,
hey, listen, if anybody's interested and you want to learn Eskrima from my vision with the tradition, and then the Dog Brothers, reach out to me. It's one of those things that I want some students. I want some students that I can pass this on to and allow them to pass it on.
Where can people find you?
Yeah, tell us about your books. Tell us where people can find you. Well, contact info, stuff like that, man. Yeah.
The best way to find me is through Facebook, Rodney Morgan, or through email, TAOCHI123 at Yahoo. Daochi123 at Yahoo. Or just find me through Facebook and let me know. But I appreciate you guys very much. I'm going to give you the traditional Dog Brothers goodbye, and it's Wolf out.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you a lot, Rodney, and we will definitely have you on again at some point, man. Thank you very much for sharing your vision with us.
Thank you, guys.
All right, guys. If you like this episode, make sure you subscribe and hit the like button. If you guys want more JMA content, go check us out on Jmurrayathletics on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. And don't forget to check out the jmurrayathletics.com store where you guys can buy JMA merch. Until next time, peace.